All right, well, I guess we got to talk about Oklahoma quarterback John Mateer's Venmo account. All right, we'll do that in today's video. And hey, guess what? I picked out my Halloween costume for this year. Take a look. Yeah, it's the Him Reaper. Oh, yeah, good morning, and that is Uncle Lou here. That's right, it is me, Uncle Lou, live on LouTube for you. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. Also, in addition to that as well, we are going to talk about the John Mateer Venmo sports gambling situation, but I took a trip down to the post office today, and guess what was in there? A brand new helmet. I wish I could thank the person that sent it to me, but there was no note or anything in the box, so shout out to whoever sent me this brand new Stanford Cardinal helmet. It's a good one, too. It's got the tree cut out there in the S. Yeah. Let's go ahead and now I've got a Stanford helmet up there already, but it's a actually it's I know it's over there. But it's a black one, and the black helmets just don't look good against the black wall. So I guess we're gonna one by one kind of replace them all. But anyway, let's replace the Stanford helmet. All right, let's take the black one down. I'll show you what the black one looked like. I have to take it down. Take the black one down. The white one. Yeah, I think that probably does look a little bit better. I just, I love the matte black helmets. I've talked about that before. I have a real sickness when it comes to the matte black helmets. I think they look really good. I think this one looks really good. But about a month ago, I painted the wall matte black, and now the matte black helmets just don't look great against the matte black wall. So I've been swapping out some of the matte black helmets for white helmets. So again, shout out to whoever it was that went ahead and sent me that Stanford helmet. Thank you. All right, let's talk about the John Mateer situation. Now, first of all, this has a lot in common with every other sort of scandal that comes about with any school. Everybody from Oklahoma is saying this is no big deal. It doesn't matter. He didn't do it. It's photoshopped. And even if it is real and not photoshopped and he did do it, it's not a big deal. Or if it's not photoshopped and it's real, it's not really sports gambling. It was just code for something else. And even if it was sports gambling, it doesn't matter. He didn't gamble on his own team, or he wasn't playing. It was 3 years ago. He was a freshman. It didn't happen here. You know, they make the Michigan Connor Stallions, you know, everybody, Connor Stallions, no big deal. Everybody does it. He didn't gain anything. Whenever a school gets caught cheating, it's the first line of defense is it's no big deal. First line of defense is it didn't happen. Once it's proven that it did happen, it goes to, well, it happened, but everybody does it. Once you find out, no, everybody doesn't do it, then it goes to, well, it wasn't that big of a deal. There's just like a series of boxes that fan bases check off when their team gets caught doing something. And right now, Oklahoma fans are going through that series of things. Now, as far as the actual screenshots itself that started surfacing yesterday evening on social media, Twitter is where I saw it first, supposedly showing the Venmo transactions from John Mateer's Venmo account. Again, John Mateer was a quarterback at Washington State for several years who has now transferred to Oklahoma and is expected to be the starting quarterback at Oklahoma this year. The screenshots started surfacing. I've got one of them up here that was supposedly showing Venmo transactions that John Mateer was sending and receiving involving sports gambling. And the reason people knew they were involving sports gambling is because John Mateer was kind enough to go ahead and label them as sports gambling. So these first started to appear. And again, you have people say, oh, this is fake. You know, it's Photoshop. This isn't real. Nobody would be stupid enough to gamble on sports and then label it on Venmo as sports gambling. You know, and then it went to, well, it doesn't matter, whatever. The same list of shit I just went through a minute ago. Well, it turns out this is real. This is his Venmo account. Why there's even an option to make your Venmo account public, I don't know. I don't know why or what benefit there would be from having a public Venmo account. I don't know what the need for it is. Other than stuff like this to come back and bite you. Why would you wouldn't make your debit card transactions public, would you? Why is it even an option on Venmo's end for people to make that? He probably didn't even know it was public. I don't know. I think I have a Venmo. If someone wants to look at, maybe someone can look up my Venmo and see what I've been up to on Venmo. I don't use Venmo anymore. I know that. I might have used to use it. I use Cash App and PayPal now, and Zelle to a lesser degree. Why? So I don't even know why this is publicly available information, but it is, and it turns out this is his actual account. He did send and receive these transactions through Venmo, and he did label them as sports gambling. You can see in one case, he even put this specific game that he was sports gambling on. Now, how do we know this is his real Venmo account and that this isn't photoshopped or faked or whatever? Well, last night when the screenshots first came out, I don't know how much you know about editing or photoshopping or anything else. It's a lot easier to Photoshop a photo, a picture, hence the term Photoshop, than it is to edit a video. So when these pictures first started coming out, it was possible they were Photoshopped. Maybe a Texas fan, maybe this is a rivalry thing, somebody just playing a joke. I guess the possibility existed when this thing first started to surface that it could have been Photoshopped. Well, then screen recordings from people's cell phones started showing up on Twitter where they were literally pulling up the Venmo app on their phone. This is all on a screen recording. They were pulling up the Venmo app on their phone, searching for John Mateer, finding this account, and in real time scrolling through and showing all of these transactions. While it's possible to fake a video like that, it is much more difficult to fake a screen recording or a video than it is a photo. So when I saw those, I was like, this might be real. Or there's someone else named John Mateer who's using John Mateer, the quarterback's photo. It seemed odd, but I was like, maybe. And even when I was posting about it on Twitter last night, I kept putting, if this is true, if he did that, if this happened. Well, a series of events unfolded today. First, Oklahoma put out a statement saying they were aware of sort of the social media stuff that was going around. A couple of the big name sports writers put out some information and some articles where they contacted Oklahoma and were told Oklahoma was aware and was looking into it and yada, yada, yada. And then a couple of hours ago, John Mateer himself, the quarterback at Oklahoma, the transfer from Washington State, put a statement out. This is his Venmo account. He's not denying that this is his Venmo account. He's admitting this is his Venmo account. He is admitting to sending and receiving these transactions that were listed on that Venmo account that were labeled as sports gambling. He admitted that this transaction on November 2nd, 2022, labeled sports gambling, parentheses, UCLA versus USC. By the way, those two teams played the day before, I believe, so the time adds up. He admits that's him. He sent that money and he labeled it sports betting UCLA versus USC. All of these transactions, he doesn't dispute any of them. He doesn't claim they're photoshopped. He says they're 100% real. That's his Venmo. He sent and received all those transactions that are labeled as some type of sports betting and gambling. But he wasn't sports betting or gambling. That's his defense. That these are all just inside jokes amongst him and his friends. Now, the people that went through his Venmo account, which, by the way, has since been privated. You can no longer go to John Mateer's Venmo account and look at all this yourself. He finally wised up and either deleted it or set it to private. But the people that went through it are saying that every single person, I mean, he's got the guy's name here. That's Richard Rowatin. Now, again, I don't know if that's a bookie. I don't know if that's a friend of his. I don't know if that's a Washington State teammate. I don't know if it's somebody he grew up with, a childhood friend. I don't know who this person is, but he got him listed. But he claims, all of the names on here related to sports gambling involve other Washington State players. There's one from somebody he went to high school with, so they're all people he knows. Whether it's a bookie or not, I don't know, but I have no idea. But anyway, he claims that while all this stuff is true and that he did send and receive all this, that is his Venmo account, he did label these things sports gambling, that he was just kidding. They was just joking. It was all part of an inside joke. If you're a college athlete and you are sending and receiving electronic transactions like this, financial transactions like this, I don't know how many of you are familiar with a lot of these apps like PayPal, Cash App, Venmo, Zelle, whatever the case. They require you to label what the payment is for when you go to send money on one of those things. It's an IRS thing. I don't know if it's some kind of anti-money laundering. I don't know the ins and outs and the legalities of why it is these apps require you to label the transactions. But in other words, John Mateer can't just send Richard Rohatyn money and not label it as anything. He's got to label it as something. If you're a college athlete and you're sending electronic transactions through Venmo or anything else, and you label it sports gambling, regardless of what you're sending the money for, you're dumb. This is retarded behavior here. The absolute best case scenario here is that John Mateer is an idiot. That's the best case scenario. He's so dumb that when he was paying back Richard Rohatyn for buying him lunch yesterday, or cutting his grass, or whatever it was he was Venmoing Richard Rohatyn money for, giving him a ride to the mall, whatever he was sending him money for, he's so stupid that he labeled it sports gambling and even attached a specific game to it. As a D1 college athlete, which, if you do that, by the way, results in your immediate ineligibility. Immediate. Bare minimum is a half the season ineligibility penalty. In other words, a 6 games, ineligible for 6 games immediately. That's the bare minimum. That's the least penalty you can get. You remember the Iowa State gambling scandal from a couple of years ago? Some of those players and wrestlers, I think it was a wrestling team, a backup quarterback or something on the football team, whoever. Anyway, it was division. It was athletes at Iowa State. Some of them were ruled ineligible permanently as a result of that gambling scandal. Part of the reason that they got such a harsh punishment is because they were underage. So not only were they violating NCAA rules, bylaws, and guidelines against athletes gambling, which we'll get to in a second, they were breaking the law because it is it is illegal for anyone under 21 to gamble. And that would be the case here with John Mateer as well. He was in 2022, he would have been 18 years old, well under the legal limit of 21 to gamble. So as far as the rules, if you're a college athlete, any college athlete, a swimmer, you run track, equestrian, tennis, golf, football, any college athlete cannot gamble or place a wager on any NCAA sanctioned event. Doesn't even matter if it's the same sport. You play football, you can't gamble on basketball. You play basketball, you can't gamble on baseball. You play baseball, you can't gamble on swimming. If you are an NCAA athlete, you cannot gamble on any NCAA sanctioned event. Doesn't matter whether it's your own team, your own school, a school in your own conference, same sport or different sport. Those are just the rules. Those aren't my rules. I didn't make the rules. I haven't said whether I'm for or against the rules. I'm just laying out what the rules are. Again, I will sort of reach back to the Michigan situation for an example here. The rules are the rules. You don't have to like the rules. Throughout life, you will find yourself in situations that have rules that you don't like. Think about any job you've ever had. Chances are there was rules there you didn't like. Rules don't have to be something that's against the law. If you work at the grocery store, at the cash register, which is rare, I know, because everything's self-checkout now. But if you work at the grocery store at the cash register, you can't talk on your cell phone while you ring people up. There's nothing illegal about talking on your cell phone. It's a rule that the grocery store has. So, because I've heard some people say gambling's not even a big deal anymore. It's legal almost there. It doesn't matter whether gambling is legal, illegal. That's got nothing to do with it. It's an NCAA rule. You cannot gamble on any NCAA sanctioned event if you're an NCAA athlete. That's the rule. And again, I haven't even said whether I think John Mateer did it, didn't do it, should be punished, shouldn't be punished. And already the comment section will be filled with mostly Oklahoma fans and maybe some other people. Oh, there's nobody, whatever. Now I'll tell you what you want me to tell you. I don't know. I think he gambled on sports. I'm not. Is anybody buying the? Yeah, I sent. This is my Venmo. I sent all these transactions. I know they say sports gambling. They even list exact games that coincide with the dates. But I was just joking. I didn't actually. It wasn't actually that. These are all inside jokes. Like sports gambling is code for, fish sandwich. The guy bought me a fish sandwich last week, and I was paying him back for the fish sandwich. Sports gambling, UCLA versus USC is just code for fish sandwich. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I think he was gambling on sports. That's what I think. So what do I think he did? I think he was gambling on sports. That's just my opinion. I'm not saying emphatically that he did or he didn't. My opinion, though, why would you do this? Why would you label a Venmo payment sports gambling if you were paying somebody back for giving you a ride to the mall, or if you bought a pair of shoes from whatever? Why would you do that? You're an idiot. That's the best case. Again, that's the best case scenario for John Mateer here, is that he wasn't gambling on sports, and he only labeled these transactions as gambling because he's an idiot. That's the best case scenario. Worst case scenario, he was actually gambling on these games. And my gut feeling is that he probably was gambling on these games. Now, do I think it's a big deal? Do I think anything should happen? Do I think anything will happen? Those are three separate questions. We'll go in order. Do I think it's a big deal? College athletes gambling on college sports? Yes. I am. First of all, I love to gamble. If y'all have been around this channel for any length of time at all, you know that. In fact, I could show you my Cash App transaction history right now. Maybe I should, because I settle up every Monday with a guy. Okay? I'm not against gambling, but I don't play any sport. I'm not involved in NCAA. I'm not an athlete. And even when I settle up on Monday and I have to label it, I've never once labeled it sports gambling, ever. I just make something up: lunch, dinner, yard work, whatever. I just literally just make something, but never sports gambling. I'd never do that. Anyway, do I think it's a big deal for college athletes to be gambling on college sports? Yes. It's way too slippery. I don't, and by the way, I believe this in the NFL all the way down. You get a lot of privileges, a lot of things come to you when you play college athletics, starting with free education and going on up now through NIL and a lot of other things. Professional sports, you're obviously paid very well to do what you do. I think with that, you give some things up. And I think one of the things that you have to know that you have to give up when you choose to involve yourself in high-level sports, whether it's at the college level or the professional level, is that while gambling may be legal and more socially acceptable in more parts of the country today than it was 100 years ago, it has no place at all inside the sports universe itself in terms of the players, the referees, the coaches. I believe there's got to be a firm wall between that. And the reasons why rules should exist to prohibit players, referees, coaches, whatever, from gambling on sports should be obvious. If it's not obvious to you why those rules exist and why I think they should exist, then chances are it can't be explained to you, but I'm going to try anyway. If there was somebody, John Mateer or anyone else, who got into some sort of serious hole financially in terms of betting on sports, that's a lot of leverage for someone to then hold over them. Hey, you do a bunch of gambling with me. You lost. You owe me $50,000, $5,000, whatever the amount of money is. You can't pay it. I need you to do X, Y, or Z in this game this weekend. I'm not accusing John Mateer of doing that. And no one has accused John Mateer of doing that. He wasn't even playing when he was making these bets, as far as I'm aware. He was, I think, a redshirt freshman when he was making these bets. So I'm not accusing John Mateer of that. But it's pretty obvious to me why every sports league on the planet is so against its players, its coaches, and referees gambling on sports. The opportunity for someone to then come in and take advantage of that person is enormous. And it's a risk that I don't think sports can take. The integrity of the game is at stake there. The whole Pete Rose situation. Now, he was kind of the worst of the worst. He was gambling on the sport he played and coached, and he was gambling in games involving his own team. It just doesn't get any worse than that. Now, as far as we know, Mateer wasn't doing that. So I understand why the rules exist that prohibit players from gambling on college sports, and I'm in favor of having those rules. All right, so that's that. What do I think should happen to John Mateer? I think there should be some punishment. By the way, you're going to notice a lot of what I'm saying here about this is similar to what I say about the Michigan scandal. Like, they're two totally different things, and I'm not comparing one to the other, but like a lot of the excuses that are being made for John Mateer are the same types of excuses that were made in the Michigan and Connor Stallions thing. Not that big of a deal. It shouldn't be against the rules. Who cares? It didn't affect anything. Who did it hurt? Who did it benefit? No one cares. Move on. If rules are not enforced, you don't have any rules. And the rules are very clear on what happened at Michigan, and the rules are very clear here. So as far as what do I think should happen to John Mateer, I think that if it's proven that he gambled on sports, and I don't know if it can be proven, beyond what we're seeing here, which is, I mean, this proves to me that he gambled on sports, but I don't know if this is enough evidence to hold up in some sort of NCAA hearing or criminal court or anything like that. I've got no idea. This is enough to convince me he gambled on sports. I can't imagine John Mateer, again, paid somebody to give him a ride to the mall through Venmo and then labeled it sports gambling, UCLA versus Southern Cal. I just find that idiot. I just don't believe that at all. But as far as if that's proof, maybe I don't know. That's up to you. You can decide on your own if you think that's proof. And I think he did it. If it is proven that he did it, then I think there has to be some type of a punishment. What that punishment should or shouldn't be, or whatever it is. Whatever the bylaws of the NCAA say, I don't know. I mean, but I am in favor of anti-gambling laws for athletes at the college level and the professional level. Those rules are there. They're in place. He knew the rule. He knows it now. Which is why he's denying that he did it. Like he knows, they know they can't do it. If you know you can't do something, you do it anyway, and you get caught, you should pay some type of consequence for that. I've made a million mistakes in my life. I'm not here accusing John Mateer of being some type of a bad person. Like, I gamble almost every day of the year. Like, so I get it. I don't have a problem morally, legally, philosophically at all with someone gambling. Not at all. But I have a problem with athletes doing it. It's against the rules, and they know that. So if you know it's against the rules and you do something anyway and you get caught, you should be prepared to suffer whatever consequences come with that. Now, again, he's saying this wasn't gambling, and we'll see what comes of it. What do I think? So those are the two questions. Do I think it's a big deal? Yeah, I do think it's a big deal. I don't think athletes should be allowed to gamble on sports. Number two, what do I think should happen? Just whatever the rules say. He's some type of sanction or punishment for John Mateer specifically. Not going back and punishing Washington State or whatever, just John Mateer specifically. What do I think will happen? Probably nothing. I'm all out of faith when it comes to the NCAA or anyone else really involved in college athletics to have the ability to hold anybody accountable for anything. Nothing. So I don't think anything's going to come of it. So if you're an Oklahoma fan, you're probably in the clear. You probably don't have anything to worry about. You're going to have to deal with the same thing Michigan fans have dealt with sort of the last couple of years, which is people constantly telling you John Mateer was gambling on sports. Because in my opinion, anybody with half a brain can read this and come to the logical conclusion. Well, yeah, he literally tells you he's gambling on sports. It was a joke. We weren't really gambling on sports. This is code for thanks for buying me lunch or whatever. You got to be a special kind of stupid if you're buying that. You got to be a special kind of stupid if you're buying that. Anyway, that's my thoughts on it. Appreciate you watching. Have a good morning.